Okay. All right.
All right, simultaneous clap.
Yes. Okay. So
All right.
this is Reactor. So um, I guess we just need to talk about like what are we going to do here?
Yeah, all right. So I thought we were going to do some kind of mastermind, like sort of
Yeah.
like Art of Product or several other podcasts like that. Like just me talk about the thing I'm working on, you talk about the thing you're working on, and hopefully learn from it and improve.
Well, it sounds like you've seen a few of those podcasts. Are they on YouTube as well? Are they sort of screen based or are they just audio based?
I don't know. I mean, on YouTube, I've seen the big ones. Like I know Joe Rogan's and Tim Ferriss's, but most of the podcasts I just get on my phone and listen to when I'm out jogging or commuting or something.
So do we care about doing a screen share on this and sort of having that as part of this, making this like a
Oh,
video?
that's a good point. I just moved it over here. I think it's not a bad idea, just because like if I go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Alchemist Camp, there's a ton of there are a ton of videos there, and there's not a ton of subscribers, but 2,500 almost now.
That's great.
And I've noticed some of the other interviews that I've done, they were like full on interviews for my solo podcast. Like those have actually done pretty well, and people, like this one I did with Arvid Kahl about a startup that, or a bootstrapped startup that he did over a couple of years. Like that got 31 likes and 0 dislikes. So I think,
635 views. That was a great one, by the way. I mean, I really enjoyed that, and sort of listening to what he said and his whole journey is sort of foundational. It's what every new entrepreneur who wants to start something online should
yeah,
hear and know about. That was very good.
yeah. I mean, that's half of what's great about doing a podcast. So I mean, I think if we put these on YouTube,
Hmm.
if this is on YouTube, people are seeing it in the future. Like I think it's just one more way for people that are more into it to get a little bit more out of it. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to be more people listening to audio, but not as engaged as the video.
I mean, I was thinking about this from a video perspective. So some of the things, for example, I created a mind map to go through to talk about, I don't know, goals, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I was sort of thinking that would be quite useful for us to do some visual stuff, as part of the discussion. I mean, to be honest, when you talk with someone, if you do have a visual aid, it is quite helpful.
Hmm.
So I think that could be cool. Okay, well, good. So with that, so we're recording it on Zoom, and
Hmm.
this is the first episode that we still completely just like I don't think I've ever started something where I've been not quite so clear about exactly what it is from the
Yeah.
but that's good. That's good. It's going to be emergent.
And another thing to point out is we're recording from opposite sides of the Pacific, so it's not exactly easy to align our schedules and so forth.
Right, exactly. So what time is it for you over there right now?
It is 12:49 a.m. for me here in Taipei, so
Wow,
it's
okay.
almost an hour past midnight.
8:49 a.m. and that's pretty early for me.
Yeah,
So
I
late
should
for
have.
you and early for me. Well, look, let's just try it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
See how it goes. All right, so well, I guess one thing, just from the mastermind perspective, well, maybe what we should do is just sort of give a little bit of background about ourselves, um,
Yeah.
so that anyone tuning into this one first show can go, okay, who are these guys? What do they do? I guess maybe I'll just do a quick screen share. If you could, does it let me? Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah,
think
it
you can
does.
just take
Yeah, I can.
control.
Yeah.
Zoom's fun
Okay,
that way.
cool. Here we go. Okay. So I'm screen sharing. So my name is Justin Vincent. I have been building online software stuff for quite a long time, over 25 years at this stage, and I really especially enjoy the bootstrapping side of things, and building small side projects and SaaS businesses, and so much so to the point where I've created Nugget, which is like a startup academy. that sort of explains how to do that, and it's got a step-by-step process to help founders sort of do that. And so Nugget itself is that, and I'm trying to grow Nugget, and part of this process that, this weekly brainstorm mastermind process that we're going to do, I'm just going to talk through what I'm thinking about with Nugget, how I'm thinking about growing Nugget, how I'm working with the entrepreneurs inside Nugget, and also with you and your project, which is this is where I'd like to hand over to you.
Yeah, sounds good. So we actually met because I found Nugget, and I went through your survey there for my project, which is called Alchemist Camp. I'm going to grab the screen here, and it's a screencasting site for people learning the Elixir programming language. I don't have quite as long of a tech background as you do. I mean, I used to run a non-technical business, a painting franchise first, and then that was just like for a summer as a teenager, college, and then after that, I managed an English teaching school with a couple of partners in Taiwan after I finished college. But I was reading Hacker News, and I wasn't a programmer, but I had a lot of friends from home that were, and really wanted to get into it, and eventually made the jump, and was an engineer at Groupon in the Bay Area, and then a couple smaller startups. And now I'm kind of doing the combination of the two, both entrepreneurial and leveraging the internet. So this site is all about learning the Elixir programming language. I've made a ton of screencasts. Most of these, actually all of them are on YouTube. Most of them are free. Some of them people pay me a monthly or annual fee to have access to, and those people also get access to full repos of the code and a few other things. So that's
something that we've got in common that I really like is that we're both building the learning platform from the ground up. So we're not using Teachable, we're not using some other system. We're both basically building a learning platform. And I think that's a great. It's fun. It's fun to do, and it also gives you just a lot of control. And you want yours to look like that.
Yeah, I do.
Because it is awesome.
So it's not entirely just random. I kind of hope that people who come in from Hacker News or someplace and see one of these tutorials, and then later they come in and they see a different tutorial, I'm hoping they'll kind of go like, oh yeah, that's the green, purple, and pink Elixir site guy.
Exactly.
I think I've been here before. So it's
very strong branding. It's very strong. Like as soon as you see it, like it's like, okay, that's Alchemist Camp.
That was a goal. But yeah, as far as like not being on Teachable, I think, and I don't have anything bad to say about them, but I think it's a lot, I don't know. It's a lot faster to get started doing that. Because I used to run a WordPress blog for quite a while, and there are plugins for everything. But then eventually, it's like you're building with all these like big Legos that aren't quite the right shape, and it ends up taking more time than if you just.
So you started Alchemist Camp. Did you on WordPress? Had you made any money with it at that point?
Oh, I didn't have this on WordPress. So
okay.
So the way I started this one was I actually just had YouTube videos for a long time.
Okay.
It was. I think I'll just pull up some of the really old ones. There was no site at all. It was just a lot of videos that, had things I was interested in. I wasn't even, necessarily thinking of turning it into like a thing other than just a YouTube channel. But then, later on I thought like, well, maybe I'll see if people are interested in premium content. And I did a survey, asked some people, and then I threw together an even more minimal site than this one. It was like...
so you didn't even start with the
purpose. Oh, no.
What happened?
I'm not paying for audio hijack, so there are some limitations. Let's see. Noise is now being overlaid on all captured audio.
No.
You know what?
That's fine.
We've
That's
got
fine.
Zoom. We've got Zoom, and I can also just use OBS and record audio. We'll see what happens.
I mean, the Zoom audio isn't terrible.
Okay, let's just use Zoom for this one.
Yeah. Let's use Zoom for this one. Okay.
Figure it out later.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah,
So just continuing on from there.
Yeah.
Well, that's assuming that the Zoom captures the audio that I'm hearing, by the way. But maybe I should be recording something as a backup.
I'll record OBS as a backup.
Yeah. Okay. Do that. Yeah.
It's what I use for all the screencasting. There we go. Okay. So so I start off with just the YouTube channel, and then I made a really minimal site. The way I did that is I just went to one of those online markdown to HTML converters, Dillinger.io, and put in the simplest ugly thing I could that just had links to the YouTube channel, and that was it. And it was one static page of HTML. Put that up. It was basically like what the episode page is now in Alchemist Camp.
But that's still not, that wasn't monetized, right?
That was right when I was like first considering it. So one thing that kind of made this an easier choice for me than it might be for other people is I could actually monetize, or I could turn all of the process of making the site into tutorials, because I made the site in the language I was teaching, and all of those are up here. It's like a CMS framework is what I called it. Yeah. So this is,
so you dog fooded your own tutorial. That's awesome.
Yeah. This is the old logo, which is absolutely ridiculous. So it's changed quite a bit. That was the survey. So it seemed like a no-brainer to make my own site.
It's a great sort of stumbling into a business strategy that you've taken. So basically, you've given value, you've given the value away for free, and it's sort of marketing. It's a marketing funnel. It's bringing people in. They're seeing the value. They're learning to trust you. Then based on the value that they get from you and the trust that they feel for you, then you've added premium content, and they know that you're not going to give them crap. You're going to give them something good, and you've got very, very competitive price points. That's something we can talk about later. But I think it's very organic the way the whole thing's sort of turned from nothing into something. It's great.
Yeah, I am pretty optimistic about it. I've got to say though, like as far as the business, it's still like much. I earn much less doing this than I would just spending those hours contracting. It's growing over time, which is a good thing. But I think my average hourly rate is less than back when I was teaching English. So,
but like the light bulb's gone off where you sort of know that it could be something big, right?
For sure, and also all the goodwill and the audience building, all that stuff. I mean, it gives me more options, which is one of which I think was the main thing I had in mind with this podcast was, I'm working on another product, which is an analytics service for not necessarily just Elixir programmers, but for anyone. And I've been building it using Elixir, using this stack, but there's kind of, there's already kind of a group of people who might be interested, or at least, trust me enough to give it a try. And I already have, some, not a big megaphone, but a little megaphone on the internet. So, all of that I wouldn't have if I'd just been contracting. So,
yeah, exactly. So you've built a foundation. So what are your goals for this year? What are your, are you thinking that way?
I am. I've got a few goals. The financial ones. I've just made another little static site blog recently.
This is with Elixir?
No, this is purely static. I did it with VuePress. So Vue.js, and then there's a there's a library called ViewPress, which is good for making documentation, and then there's a plugin that makes it more bloggy.
Yeah.
So yeah, this
Cool.
is kind of like the whole MRR path of it so far. And my goal for the end of the year is to double the gross subscription sales up to 28K for 2020.
Yep.
Keep the lifetime retention, which I'm very proud of, over 60%. Because like right now, I still have most of everyone who's ever signed up is still a member. And then launch the second product before the 1st of March. That's the analytics service.
That's a good deadline. So, and then, finally travel to the US for an Elixir conference.
I got to do it. There's so many out there.
So regarding lifetime retention. So does that mean they're paying you monthly?
Monthly or annually? It's a mix. So I think right now it's about 60% are paying monthly, I think, and 40% annually.
And how much what's the monthly cost?
Well, it depends on when they signed up. So the people that signed up really early, some of them are still paying $12 a month, or the very lowest, I think, is two people are paying $64 a year, and they've been there for they're already like renewed on their next year. The current price is $21 a month, or $210 for a year. And I do very occasional discounts, like I do a Black Friday deal. I'm working on that.
Is there any way to tell the utilization, or is that not plugged in? That's why you're doing stats. That's why you're building a stats.
The event analytics. I had a really nice dashboard on Keen.io, but they raised their prices on me from like $5 a month to $150 a month. So I quit,
okay.
and I've been working on my own. But yeah, what I did is, like, other than just view, so I tracked I tried to track like the 5 most important events, because I saw this talk with Emmett Shear from Twitch, one of the YC talks about that. And so I was thinking, like, what are the important things other than visits, which I think almost everyone tracks? I care about subscribes, and I care about cancellations. I care about just creating an account and becoming like a free user as opposed to just a visitor. And then I care about social shares, but I haven't really tracked that one very much. So like with that event information, other than just like how many visitors are there, I can look at stuff like how many people have been on the site, how many days of the last 28. So I can see, like, there's some people that have actually like been there 26 out of the last 28. And then there's a long tail of people that have been there like less and less and less.
And so do you have any kind of marketing plan to double those figures?
Yeah. So one thing is, so top of the line, I'm just going to make more videos on YouTube, keep doing the same stuff I'm doing, keep on making articles, keep sharing those when appropriate in various online watering holes I'm in. But as far as like something that sounds like really targeted marketing, I'm doing some segmentation and learning like what level each person who subscribes to my email list or who makes an account, I'm going to try to ask them, like, what's your current Elixir level? I don't know if you saw this thing here, free email course. This goes to a type form, and I say, in order to best serve you, I want to ask you a few questions. And the first one is how well they know Elixir, because that's like the number one thing, because then I know like which tutorials to recommend to them, and really helps me help them quite a bit. Then what they're doing now, like, are they an Elixir dev, JavaScript dev, manager, student, whatever, and then like what programming language they know best. I require that one. And oops, my light fell. 1 sec. Put that semi-transparent cover on it. Now it's not blinding. Anything else we want to know? Okay, so they type in all these things and send me the email, and then based on that, I'm gonna tailor the emails that I send to everybody. And at least as far as I've read online, that should actually help quite a bit. It should help me grow the email list. It should also help me keep people on it and convert more of them to paying customers, and also help them more. Yeah.
That's nice. So the way that I just going to switch over sharing here. The way that I think about marketing for products. So, I had Plugio, which was my social media dashboard, and built and sold that, and then Nugget and a couple of other things that I've worked on. The way that I think about it is, so it's like if product sales was a molecule, it'd be like you and the product, and essentially you're building trust and persuasion. So you're doing an amazing job of this already, because you're sort of building that trust and people are sort of believing you. It's literally, it's kind of like a formula. Number one rule of sales is people buy from people or companies who they know and trust, and people buy products that solve their problems or make their life better. And as we discussed before recording this, we were discussing this idea that your sales operation is sort of like an octopus. It's like there's many tentacles that are out there on the internet. And so that's sort of what I mean is, like, do you have a plan? Do you think it would be useful? Let's just say, do you think it would be useful to create like some kind of bullet point list / plan of all the different tentacles to the octopus, the big web that's going to pull people into your funnel, and that you're then going to sort of nurture those people in to understand that they can trust you, and that because they can trust you, they can buy stuff from you. Does that make sense?
I think so. I mean, I may already have that, except just not very well organized. Like I have a whole bunch of Mac notes, on each of the, on like what I want to do for the email, what I'm planning on YouTube, what kinds of articles I'm going to write, that kind of thing.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I've been like thinking about, sort of preparing for this process that we're doing, and I've just been sort of thinking, okay, I would like to sort of get organized about it. What are my goals for this year? I'm sort of listing different goals, sort of even to what I'm going to do to the house. What the plans are for wealth, and what my strategy is like over the next year. So thinking about that essentially that octopus.
Marketing surface area.
Yeah,
that's kind of a cool term.
Yeah, well, because let's just go. What do you think? Do you mind if we talk about mental models for a second?
Yeah, I love that. Let's do it.
Because these mental models, basically, everything that I'm thinking about is running through these mental models, and it's like this is the filter that I'm making all decisions for this year. So I'll just start with this. So basically, the personal mental model is, health over wealth. That's kind of like the first thing. The new 2020 reality for me is health over wealth, and the previous 25 years have been wealth over health, and as a result, that hasn't worked out too well. So so in some ways, I'm almost like pulling back. I've sort of reshuffled my priorities, and I'm moving health as like a number one priority. So in the goals there, I want to try.
That's a crazy coincidence, because actually health is my number one goal this year too, which is why I've been. I told you a little while ago I was like running 2 out of every 3 days, and had to be awake at certain times for that. Like that's exactly that's kind of crazy.
Great. Well, so that sort of aligns with my goals here. So my goals for this year, and hopefully this could. I mean, so you know that I've been a co-host of Techzing for the last 10 years. And what I have found, thank you. What I have found is that, it's almost embarrassing to say, but people have enjoyed watching myself and Jason sort of set goals and do stuff over time. So in some ways, our lives are a plot line. a weekly plot line.
Yeah. Actually, so if I like cut in really quick, like
Yeah.
the reason I like Techzing so much and why I got like so sucked into it wasn't just because I briefly met Jason long ago in San Francisco. It was because like I was listening to this podcast. You guys were talking from like 2010 or 2011 about all these opinions you had, these things you were going to do, and it was fascinating because it was just like I was getting this little dip here, dip there, just this pointless view of your guys's friendship and business pursuits, and as well as predictions about all kinds of tech things like Twitter and Tesla and Soylent when they were new. So I hate to say this, but I think it was actually better that I didn't listen to it back when you were like first recording it or recording a ton, so that I could hear them all from the future.
Well, you're one of the rare people who've basically gone ahead and listened to 300 episodes in one sitting. So you basically did that. It must have been over the course of a month. I mean, it couldn't have been quicker than that. There's basically at least 2 weeks of back-to-back audio to listen to. So
I was back at my grandma's place in Colorado, and I actually, because of this really annoying just bureaucracy hell, I don't have a driver's license in the US. I had a California license, and I lost it abroad, but my family's from Colorado. So I got to Colorado and they were like, oh, well, let's see the California one. I was like, well, I lost it. And then the California DMV wouldn't let me replace it unless I had proof of residence in California. So just like this big nightmare. So I was actually, while I was staying with my grandmother, I was, at home coding a lot, but I was also like, going out, walking a couple miles to go to a store or something. And that was a perfect environment for binging through a podcast.
Okay, that is awesome. I mean, I'm
flattered
that you listen to that much, and I really appreciate it. And it's also good because it means that it helps us. Well, at least you know some stuff to say about
I do know some
that previous experience, which is great. But also, what I wanted to say is, I think with what we're doing here, we could probably do the same thing, because I've experienced that it does work. It does work. I mean, I don't know why people are interested in tracking what you or I do, but I think it might be interesting if we present it in an interesting way every week, and we slightly change and grow. And
people like stories, right?
It might inspire them, and help them. So hopefully. But unless we completely fall on our face, in which case it'll just still be interesting to watch, watching a train.
Even then, we'll have an audience. It'll be a nastier sort of YouTube comment thread.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason why I'm just talking about that is because that's sort of why I created this mind map, is to say, okay, look, I'm going to state what I want to try and do here for this year from this first episode, and then every week, and I think we should try and do every week. And it was super hard for me to fit this in today, in amongst work stuff. But I just think we just got to do it. We just got to do it, whatever happens. Like,
when
just
I'm
keep swimming,
traveling. Like I will hustle to fit the schedule.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going a bit all over the place, but I usually do. But all right. Yeah. So we were talking about mental models. So
yes.
So personal one, health over wealth, that's great. So we've both got those goals. So these are my year goals. To try and lose about 50 pounds over the year, and to try and bring my blood sugar down to healthy ranges. I'm a diabetic, and my blood sugar right now is in unhealthy ranges. It's usually between 200 and 250. I'm just about to get a continuous glucose monitor. So that's where you plug it into yourself, and you can sort of look at it and see what it does.
You get a quick feedback loop.
It's like every 5 minutes you get a reading. So we'll see how that works, and I will just keep working at that. But with wealth, these goals, I'm not quite so clear on these as I am on the health ones. Generate 250,000 from side projects. That's really a stretch goal, to be perfectly honest. I'd be happy to generate 50,000. 50,000 or 100,000. 250,000 is a stretch goal. but that's just based off what I've seen about the sales of Nugget and how much I need. Because basically, the only money that I need, because I'm already in 2 day jobs, the only money I actually need from side projects this year is to complete the work that my wife wants to do on the house.
Oh, okay.
And
So
I
it's
think
not
that's
like
going to be about 50,000. You know.
okay. Well, on your Techzing podcast, you were talking about a Cybertruck. So I was just thinking, like, how many of those are you
Okay,
trying to
that
get?
is true. That is true. Cybertruck, but the thing about that is a very stretch goal, and it's not even in existence till
It's a little
2021,
crazy. Oh, okay.
or 2022. So this year I can't get a Cybertruck.
So okay, so 250K from side projects, and Nugget's the main one, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And it like what
It's
did
a
it do
stretch goal.
last year?
Nugget into so basically Plugio's total income for me was 250,000. That was the first app.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nugget's total income so far has been about 110,000. Let's just go and have a quick look.
And it's not that old, is it?
It is, because it's gone through a few different iterations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so let's see what it says. So to date, it's made $115,000 Nugget, but it's really gone through two iterations. The first iteration was about it being an ideas platform and basically selling ideas. So if we go to,
I remember that. Yeah. So it's been going 4 years then.
yeah,
So it's about 30K a year ish.
yeah, except of those 4 years, it was more like I worked on it 1 year. I kind of didn't think about it for a year.
Right.
Then I worked on another year. Then I didn't think about it for a year, which is the very same thing that happened with Plugio. And I find this is something that happens with side projects. Is especially if you have a full-time job, which is the way that I'm sort of thinking about it, you just lose passion for it and you don't want to work on it, and then you get back to it. You know, I don't know if you've gone through that cycle, or is that just me?
I don't know. Like I did the full-time job and then like also just about full-time on a side project before. I kind of just kept at it for like until I didn't have the full-time job anymore. So I don't know. But I think for me, I'll get like super into something and work on it like in a sustained burst although, you know, those timescales. So maybe I'll do that for like 6 months or a year, but I definitely couldn't do that for like 4 years.
Well, for sure. Look, for all the work that I've done on Nugget, and now there's been 100 founders who've gone through it. Like I know for a fact that the number one thing that predicts whether there's success or not is if you just keep doing it. If you just turn up every day.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't turn up every day. It's really, really difficult. And there's quite a few founders who even with Nugget, because now it's been going for 2 years, I've seen them drop out for 6 months. I've seen them come back in. Then they'll do a push for a couple of months, and then they'll drop out again. It's difficult especially when you've got family and you've got life and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Well, I am single and do not have any kids, so I can't. I can imagine, because I've seen my friends. Some of my friends have like 2-year-olds,
and the ideal
scenario. They're not getting too much done. They're just like happy if they can sleep sometimes.
All right. Well, okay. So I guess let's just talk through these mental models. So this is sort of where I'm thinking everything is going through these filters. So the personal stuff is the health over wealth, then family driven decisions. So for example, my goal for this year really is just about helping my wife do what she wants to do to this house.
The house,
so that's what I mean about family-driven decisions. Because we've just moved to this house in the mountains, which is also very interesting, and it's very snowy outside, and it's very cold, and we need new things like a fireplace, for example. Okay, so then the founder fit formula. This is something that I talk about in Nugget. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, I've gone through that part.
So this is super important. So basically, anything that I do has to, it needs to be within the context of me. What decisions, my life, who I am. I shouldn't just do stuff just because I think it's a good idea. I need to sort of evaluate it through that context of me. So it needs to be a good product founder fit. So Nugget makes a lot of sense for me because for some reason I have a very deep passion to help other founders be successful in the way that I've found so hard over the last 25 years. The market founder fit, once again, this is just about, who am I dealing with to make this money? And I want to make sure that those people work really well with me. A price founder fit is I want to charge prices and price points that make sense, that I believe that I can support and feel happy about supporting. That also makes sense for the people who are spending money. So I never want to be in a scenario where I get someone who has no money to give me $500. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
right.
that is just a not pleasant scenario to be in. Like, but I wouldn't mind charging that person $10. You know what I mean? But someone
Yeah,
who's
totally.
earning 200,000, I'm happy to charge $500. So I want that to all sort of work out. The goal founder fit is, once again, founder driven decisions. So basically, personal context is everything, I think, about all this work that you do.
So the first three I've heard quite a bit about. What's the goal founder fit part about?
It's just running. It's my goals here are basically my revenue. The revenue that I'm looking for. It just relates to what it practically relates to who I am in my life and my family. That's
Okay.
really, yeah,
Okay. Just
that's
the
what I mean.
goals fit
Yeah,
you. Got
yeah.
it.
So then the think small is this is all in Nugget. You've seen this before, but basically just to learn fast. So in the previous 25 years, a number of times I've made mistakes where I spend 6 months getting an answer, rather than learning within a few days. I could have learned within a few days or a week, but I spent 6 months. And the classical way that you do that is you do something like you say, okay, I'm going to build this product. And you spend 6 months building this product, and then you launch it and you see if anyone wants it. And that's just a really, really classic mistake. Whereas you could probably just find that out by talking to people from the get-go, Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so learn fast, so small tests over big ideas. So that that just means it's really just the same thing. So, for example, Light, I built this mobile delivery platform. I spent 9 months building this thing and put it out there, and I hired couriers, and I it was completely operational, and it was working, and it was making money, and I realized that it was just a business that was a really bad founder fit for me. And I basically could have validated that whole idea and worked that out if I'd have just printed some business cards and just started the business without building any tech.
Was that the Uber for coffee thing?
Basically,
Light?
yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Small tests over big ideas, and it's just super important. And so, okay, so talking about that, I think that the first 4 or 5 of these that we do, it's
hmm
just going to be me talking through
Okay.
because and that's what I mean, like hyper iterating, just quickly running things past you and you saying no, I think that's ridiculous, and just doing a lot of upfront thinking to sort of as quickly as possible hyper iterate as quickly as possible to get to some good decisions about what the strategy should be. Does that make sense?
I
Yeah.
think so. So is this like to get to the strategy you want to use for Nugget, or to get to the strategy you want to use for teaching this framework?
For Nugget,
I guess
because
both. They're kind of the same.
it's fun because basically I'm going to be making my money through Nugget for this year, but I sort of need to decide how to do that. And to decide how to do that, I think I need to go to iterate very quickly over some different execution ideas.
So this kind of fits in with what I was saying last time we chatted, actually, because I think the hardest thing for Nugget right now is just that it's so big. It takes so long. Not for you, but I mean just for any of the founders who are using Nugget. It
Yeah,
takes a long time to get to where you actually launch something and try it. So a lot of people, or at least I, kind of felt bogged down in some of the earlier lessons. But if it's such that founders can go through it or through like a first pass of it or something more quickly, then you also get feedback faster.
yeah,
Kind of like hyper iteration, both for them and for you.
yeah. Yeah. So, so this take pieces off the board just refers to basically take if there's a win, just take it. Don't sort
Hmm.
of double guess that win, and it's like the strategy in backgammon. If you've got a piece at the end and you can take it off the board, then do it rather than make another move.
Yeah, got it.
um, and I think a lot of people don't do that, but that's something that I want to think through. So then the think small, act big, the power of gradualism, is just basically big things happen in very, very small gradualized steps. You know, like you, I mean, what you've done with Alchemist Camp. If you look at how it's just been this gradual process, you kind of recorded that first video, you put it out there, you got feedback, and then you kind of enjoyed it, and then you put a few more out there, you got feedback, you really enjoyed that, and then you sort of started getting more people coming and thousands of views, and maybe this could be something bigger.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It wasn't like I just like retreated into my lair for a weekend and then came up with this gigantic plan with 15 interlocking pieces.
Yeah, and Alchemist Camp is also a perfect example of how like small bricks build big things. So like every little video you did, it was like its own little sort of functional unit, and it stands on its own, but like combined together, they create this larger thing, which can then create this larger business for you. And then all your other work is sort of based on those small units. And so a lot of what I've noticed, a lot of founders will sort of just go for a big idea, like I did with light. you know.
Yeah,
So you
me too.
just
Before this, like,
what kind of what? Tell me some other ones that you've
oh
done.
my gosh. So yeah, actually, this is a perfect time to tell this bit. Like, why I'm like the reason I got into Alchemist Camp to begin with is I already had been working on a pretty ambitious free to use language learning tool, basically a tool for conversation partners.
Hmm.
And I'd been coding on, I mean, I'd been just coding a ridiculous amount, and I got repetitive stress injury, and like this wrist is all messed up. I used to have like a noticeable bump there, but it's gotten better. This joint is kind of like a little bit bad from like the mouse, and it was bad enough. Like it hurt to brush my teeth, like that kind of repetitive stress injury.
Wow. Okay.
I took a couple weeks off completely, and then when I
And
was
so
doing Alchemist Camp, I would just think, like when I first started, it was like, what can I do that doesn't take too much time at the keyboard? And I was like, well, I could, do a screencast,
hmm,
and I limited it to only 10 hours a week. I tried to limit all keyboard time to like 20 hours a week. So the way this happened is I was basically trying to make a free to use app that was mostly popular in Southeast Asia and other like very poor areas, because it was like people learning English that were using a free to use app for conversation partners or like a teacher and student to use. And it was actually it was worse than a two-sided marketplace. It was like an array of two-sided marketplaces, because it's like you have like
wow.
Thai speakers who want to learn Chinese, and then you have like Thai speakers who want to learn Japanese. You have Japanese speakers who want to learn Chinese, and so just like this crazy thing. And of course, like I'm a bit of a language learning geek, but obviously I couldn't communicate with everyone, and I couldn't like orchestrate it such that everyone could find what they wanted, even balancing out for the different demand for any language pair. Like obviously, most pairs, like if one of them is English, there are going to be a lot more people learning English than English speakers learning that other language. So it was kind of a crazy thing to do with basically no funding. I had a tiny amount, but it was it was too much for one person to bite off, or at least
That's
for me
right.
then.
Yeah, that
And,
happens a lot.
and so after doing all of that, then it was like, all right, so I don't have any money, my wrists are hurt, and um, that didn't work. Maybe I'll just try selling stuff to people directly, first contracting, and then Alchemist Camp.
Well, Well, the thing that you did that's kind of a big deal as well with what you did is so basically you did you've found customers, you've created an audience by sort of creating that audience. It just gives you the capability of building a business. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about audiences, you know, because at the end of the day, every business is based on an audience, and from that audience, there's customers, and those customers have an intent to pay, and you sell them something, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
you've just like sort of, I don't know whether it was locked into that or, but
I
that's
did
a
a
really
lot of
good,
reading. I did
yeah.
a lot of reading. Like,
Okay.
that's another good thing about repetitive stress injuries. If you can't code, then you got to, you can read. That doesn't take anything from your wrists.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's great. Um, yeah. So the final one, foundational change is big change, and really what I'm thinking about there is because of the decision that we've both made to build our own platform. It means that you understand all the layers of the stack of that thing. And so for me to make a huge change to Nugget is really not that difficult because everything's built out of small bricks. Like, you know, I built the
Mm.
UI. I built the UI out of the small bricks. I understand exactly how the UI works. I didn't use Bootstrap or some other sort of abstracted system, you know, and I've built
Not
sort
even
of,
that level.
yeah, that's right. So
Wow.
so so that just makes it super easy to make huge change to a product like a Nugget or an Alchemist Camp. You know, the more you understand about something, and the more you've built it out of these small bricks and things. But I think that works beyond coding. It works in everything. Like if you know your video is like each one of those is a small little component, and you could make sort of changes to I don't know, you could top and tail them, for example, and then it would be a big change to all of your content, something like that. It's just a general thing, I think, you know, in the back of my mind. Um,
Like,
you go.
yeah, I was thinking. I don't know if this is this in line with the same idea, but I was thinking any sort of changes to, say, like the email process, like segmenting or automating emails, that kind of thing, is kind of like this just layer that works across all the existing stuff.
That's right. It's foundational. Like basically, your whole email communication process is a foundational process, and if you sort of get right in there and make that foundational change, it could. Yeah, I mean, exactly right. What you even said, you know, one of your goals is to sort of get to know people. Like that is really good, simple, small foundational change and understanding. Yeah. Okay, so so that's really the personal stuff. Then this is the think small stuff, which I think is like the most important thing I've ever learned is basically just think small at all times through anything you ever try and do. And then the product mental model. So these are basically the mental models that I think about building a product is, you know, you want to create value for your product, you want to solve problems, and you want to improve lives. It's just as simple as that. You know, when you work with customers, you just want to make their life better.
Yeah.
um, so then regarding a solution, it really kind of comes from the think small, you know, basically first principle thinking. This is, I first heard of this through Elon Musk. And basically it's just anytime you're thinking about a problem, forget about what you've already done, forget about what everyone else has already done. Just look at that problem in and just rethink it from the ground up. Like, okay, what is the best way to solve this problem right now? Don't, oh yeah, look, lots of people have solved this problem in many different ways, but forget that. What actually is foundationally the best way to solve this problem?
Yeah, I think I remember from his book or the biography about him something about the battery costs. Like everyone else was just saying, like, well, this company charges this much, this one's this much, this one in this country is this much, and he was just like, well, no, let's look at the cost of the raw materials that go into
Mm-hmm.
making a battery and add those up
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
see if we can maybe get dramatically lower.
Yeah. And I love that way of looking at things. And that's another reason why, that's exactly the reason why I build my own CSS stuff and why there's certain layers where I'm like, okay, I've given up. building that. Like, for example, I use Laravel now. But for the first 20 years, no, for the first 15 years, I've just always built my own framework.
So like CSS, it's like you're not using utility CSS framework or anything.
I just build that. But I've built it many times. So to do it is just a copy and a paste. You know what I mean? So
I do have this feeling with a lot of stuff, like I was talking about auth libraries and just a bunch of there's just a bunch of things with my own projects where I don't want to pull in an extra dependency if I don't have to.
Well, a lot of times with libraries, because having built libraries, open source libraries, I know what it's like to do that, and you sort of have to think about a lot of edge cases that will work for other people, but that aren't necessarily relevant to what you're doing. So most libraries that are out there will kick 80% of it isn't relevant to your case, your use case. There's a few libraries that are perfect, but a lot of them, it just isn't relevant to your case. So the problem is that I find is you then don't know how the innards of that library works. And if you want to make a foundational change, you can't do it without really understanding it and like reverse engineering what they did. Whereas it's just quicker to just build the 20% you need in not in every case, but in a lot of cases. And then you understand it so intimately that you can make a foundational change and change everything in one quick go.
I think this is really this is very counter to the advice that I hear in indie hackers, or even that I see just in general entrepreneurial tweets and blog posts and so forth. But I really agree with it. So I think it's like that could be a place where people in Nugget have a competitive advantage if there's a way to distill it. But I think it's very specific to me, and this again comes back to maybe in the founder fit formula I need to say mental model fit, because because this is quite specific in my case, because I have been coding for so long and I've built all this stuff before, so it's pretty easy for me to go ahead and do that. I mean, for me to do a CSS framework is just a day's work. It's just an afternoon. You know what I mean? Like just to really get it working, and then to test it is probably like 2 days. And does anyone else work on it, or is it 100% you?
It just because basically I'm building all this stuff. So
I think that's a key factor for both of us.
Yeah. That is a very key factor. Yeah, if it's just you, it's just much easier to move around if it's just you. Imagine tying yourself to 10 people, literally by rope. It would be pretty hard to. It's just much harder to change direction and move around. But when you're on your own, it's just much easier. So that's sort of a very foundational part of even these mental models and what they mean to me as a person. So first principles. So then keep it simple. Stupid is just, once again, think small. And I always try and keep any page in a product to one core theme, so that people don't have to think about too much. And I find that just makes it easier. And I find all that stuff increases the amount of revenue you can make, because it just keeps things simple and it keeps friction low. And it just makes it easier for people to use it, to get into it, to be onboarded, to understand it, and to trust you, and ultimately to give you money. Then quality adds value. Now, I don't have any proof of this, and I don't have any scientific research. It's just my internal belief that quality products, people are more likely to pay higher price points for products that feel like they have quality. So if there's like, I don't know, different blocks that are out of alignment on a page from a design perspective, and it kind of looks higgledy-piggledy, and it just sort of doesn't look high quality, I feel like people might be less likely to pay high quality price points. But that I think this is the least provable and sort of, this is just a me thing in a way. but it's what
I think it has an effect. Yeah.
yeah. So then with sales, these are kind of important mental models. So the surface area formula, and because surface area, the first time I heard of surface area was when Jason Roberts from Techzing came up with his luck surface area. But the more I think about it, surface area as a mental model is just excellent in so many different levels.
So let's go over luck surface area really quickly, just
Sure.
since maybe not everyone here listening is familiar with it. Me? All right. I actually already recorded a solo monologue podcast on this a while back.
Okay.
I did. So yeah, luck surface area it's basically like, instead of thinking luck is something completely random that just happens to you with no input from what you did, there are actually things you can do to kind of like have a bigger area to catch more luck. So for example, if you have a rare and valuable skill, but not many people know that you have it, you don't have many places where you can get hit by that luck. But if you're well known for it, like say you've done a lot of good things and you've written about it on your blog, like say Patio 11 or Patrick McKenzie did about his Google AdWords exploits, or not exploits, but just his Google AdWords strategies and successes on his blog, then you'll get known for doing that thing, and luck will happen to you. Someone will be more likely to have the problem and have heard of you, or have a friend that mentions you, and you'll just get more and more inbound things that look like luck, but were sort of luck, but sort of like you had a big net to catch the luck.
What's the visual in your mind for surface area? Because I find that's a very important part of this equation. Like, how do you think of surface area?
Well, I was really into math as a kid, so it's really hard for me not to just think of it as like abstractly. But
interesting, because I always think of it like this. I think of the first time I ever heard of luck surface area. The first time I heard of it was Jason Roberts, but the first time I heard of surface area was in biology, like biology class. And the description was, in the digestive tract, the little villi things create a lot of surface area. There's millions of them. So rather than just being a flat wall, they stick up, and there's lots of these little things, creating 100 times the surface area for the food absorption, And so, so I think of surface area as this very big surface. It could be some sort of absorbent surface. And so that's what I'm thinking about in my mind when I think luck surface area. I'm imagining. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So if I just hear surface area, I think of like a conic section or a sphere or something like that, where I had to calculate it. And so it's like, drilled into my memory. But if I think of luck surface area, I kind of think of lucky events as like rain that you're catching on an umbrella. And so a bigger luck surface area is like a bigger umbrella.
Nice. I like it. So basically it's just a larger area of that thing. So,
yeah.
So marketing surface area goes back to the octopus concept. So basically through the multiple tentacles of different things you've got going, your Twitter, your YouTube, and your blog, and then breaking that down, each blog post, each Twitter post, each thing you do, and then everyone you speak to. And so all of that marketing surface area is a big and important thing to have. So sales, the surface area formula for sales, is basically just creating a very large surface area of these things that are integral to sales happening and people giving you money. So luck surface area, which is like a sort of the collection of people. The marketing surface area, which is like your whole sales funnel. Trust surface area, which means on all of your pages and everything you put out, to do stuff that gives people value and makes people trust you. So the more times you do that, the larger trust surface area you've got. And then basically the funnel surface area is it's just the same thing. So really that's really what I'm talking about with all of this.
The funnel surface area I don't get.
Yeah, that might be something I just put in there because it was like I was just like typing things
You're
down.
just in the surface area
This
analysis.
isn't going to be perfect. This isn't going to be
Totally.
perfect.
Of course, of course.
Okay, so basically, once again, this is mental models. This is me deciding all the things that I'm going to do. I'm looking at it through the lens of this as a whole. So trust is sales. That's why I buy stuff from Amy Hoy. That's why I buy stuff from the other people that I buy, because I trust them, I believe them. And then the final thing is man on wire, which is this is a very
Oh, that
specific.
was in Nugget, but I forgot what it is.
It's a specific thing to me. It's by let me just find it quickly here. So I'll try and give a really quick. Let's find this. So just going back to that idea where everything, I sort of think of things in individual, small, simple units. And so to get someone to buy something from them not knowing you is all of these dots. And it's like, I imagine it like this wire. And I think I imagine you sort of gradually sort of bring people in, someone lands on your homepage. That's one wire. Then they read a headline. That's the second wire. Then they read a subheading. Then they read testimonials. Then they click on plans and pricing. And so the question is the man on wire mental model is what do I use to make sure that people get from that wire to that wire to that wire to that wire?
So is this like one building to the next, the next, the next?
So, it's not the reason why I use this graphic is this guy Philip Petit. This is where this mental model comes from. When he was the first and only guy to tightrope across the Twin Towers, and the way that they did that, the interesting part for me is he tightroped on a steel cable, right? This cable here, which is steel. How in God's name did they get that steel cable from one building to the other when essentially it was an illegal operation? So basically, it was the way that they did it was this. I'll give you the spoiler, and this is what I explain in this lesson here. He went up one building and sort of like hid from the security guards and went to the roof, and another guy went up to the other building. And in his backpack, he had a whole bunch of different size threads and wires and a bow and arrow. And so he basically shot a bow and arrow of just a little thread from one building to the other. The other guy catches the arrow. Obviously the arrow didn't go into him, but he picked up the arrow from the roof and pulls a thread. And then he ties a string to the thread and he pulls that across. And then he ties like a small rope to the string and he pulls that across. And then until eventually it builds up to be a steel cable. And so
That's nuts.
That is what I think about when I think about everything. I mean, I run everything through this filter. So I run it on a macro level. I run it. So I'm thinking about the first time anyone ever sees a tweet of mine or hears a podcast of mine or reads a blog post, how do we sort of get them all the way through? And it's just a mental model I use. So for example, this is the application of that mental model on a home page. So I want them to land on the home page. Then the next thing I want them to do is to read the headline and then read a subheading, read testimonials, click plans and pricing. And so the way that I do that is the first thing is to make the headline very, very big and make it very, valuable to the user. So basically, as long as I've done the job of getting the right person to land on that page, basically they're going to see save 10 hours on QuickBooks every week. And they're going to think, wow, that's really valuable. That's interesting enough. And it's piqued my interest enough. I'm going to go to the next thing on the page, which is the next wire. Our QuickBooks plugin does the work for you. Okay. So again, I'm thinking, okay, it's almost like narrative drive in story writing. How do I get them from there to there? Then I'm going to get them to here. And you'll notice that this box is darker than this box. So I'm specifically driving the person's eyes to read this next, because that's the way I want them to do it. So I'm orchestrating exactly how they read the page. So this tool reduces my time spent in QuickBooks by 75%. These days I get out of work, so basically, and then finally click for freedom. So that's what I mean by the man on wire mental framework.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to dig into that. Maybe I didn't go through this part in Nugget.
No, you didn't, because this is something we were discussing. A big mistake that I made with Nugget is I locked down the stages. So I sort of was trying to be too controlling about the user experience. So I made it so that you had to unlock module 1 to get to module 2, unlock module 2 to get to module 3. And as we discussed in our last call, that should have just been open. People should be able to click around, but and sort of have a look at future content, but track the markers complete so that the little rocket moves along correctly. So there's two sort of concepts. One is it's tracking where you are, but also you can just look around into the future. So
is that hard to change?
No, it's not hard to change it. No, it's not. Again, because of having built the whole thing and building it out of small components and all that. Let's see right here. So process. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. So these are logged. So that one was design yourself.
Oh, stage 9. Okay.
Yeah. Stage 9. So you haven't got to that. Where are you right now anyway in it?
I believe I am on stage 5.
Yeah, so but really, I mean, what Nugget's helped you do is just pick. If it could help, the best thing that Nugget can do is help anyone pick an idea to work on that is not a waste of time.
So I've used it. I've used it for that. I've put a bunch of ideas through the grinder, and the 2 that I've talked to you about, the analytics one mentioned earlier, and then the starter kit, like those both made it through. But haven't. Well, actually, I got a lot out of. I already said this before, but I got a lot out of the first stage as well. Just kind of like self-reflection and figuring out like what sorts of environments work and otherwise I've really excelled in, and what they had in common with each other. So
I have a meeting in 8 minutes, so I think we could go through the strategy stuff and the next time we talk. But
all right.
in the last 10 minutes, let's maybe wrap up on your stuff, because I feel like I've taken over. And I feel bad.
No, it's fine. I didn't know this was a plan, but it was, it's interesting to see, and I will probably be more on top of this plan for next time. I didn't have any huge questions or stuff to share on my side. So the analytics tool, like that's the main thing that I think I'll need more help with in Alchemist Camp, or I'll have more questions about because it's newer. The main thing there is I haven't shared it with anyone except for myself yet.
So do you think
it works? So here's the thing. Here's a scary thing.
Yeah.
So with Alchemist Camp, 1.9 of uptime, like 99.9% uptime, is fine. Because if content's not there for 10 minutes or for an hour even, you can just come back later. But for an analytics tool, it's got a lot higher requirements, right? Because like anytime it's down, it's not collecting data for anyone. And I'm not saying I expect it to be down or to be incredibly difficult to do that, but it's just the people have higher expectations for something like that. It's going to be more mission critical, and then on top of that, essentially, like if it does well, my own customers DDoS me because my traffic will be the sum of all of theirs. Like every single, if they're sending an event every single time they get a visit, well, they get one request, I get one. So I get the sum of all of theirs. So that's kind of had me, thinking like, okay,
that's a classic example where I would be thinking like breaking stuff down into really small components and thinking, okay, I know for a fact that like one service server could service one of my clients. So, could that be like some sort of architectural decision, or are you going to do it like more like serverless?
I think it would be multi-tenant to start with. So I've looked at the prices for like managed databases on various hosts that I would consider, like DigitalOcean's managed databases, or Render is like a more managed solution. But it looks like it's doable. Like it looks like I could afford what I'm thinking of asking. And then for once the data like accumulates a certain amount, then I can just dish that off to Google BigQuery or something to say like you get access for this much time, and then it's warehoused, and you can still get the data, but it's just slower.
I'm really interested to hear your different solution ideas about that. I mean, will you be building that out before next week, or
I've already got a working analytics solution for myself.
okay.
The question is, how much do I need to? How much infrastructure do I need to build before I let anyone else use it too?
I mean, the point is like, how about just work with a maximum of 10 customers, right? And just start collecting it, work with them, and then you can just sort of get the user experience, the onboarding flow, all that stuff worked out with them. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you can definitely scale. Just don't choose anyone who's got a giant site,
I agree. I agree 100%, but it's scary. So I've been dragging my feet a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I guess we can talk about it next time.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So that's I'm not going to say that's it. That's a wrap. That's your other show.
Yeah, that's the other show, and I'm also not going to say it because I think that's copyright to Jason Roberts.
I think so.
So we'll work out some kind of sign off.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you next time.
Yeah. So cool.